Good afternoon. My name is Doug Wheeler. I'm the President and CEO of the Florida Ports Council, and it's great to see so many friends and colleagues here at what should be another fantastic Future of Florida Forum. And yes, I'm the Seaport guy introducing the planes, trains, and automobiles presentation. But anyway, picture this, if you will. 3 million new drivers, 4.5 million new residents. So this is Florida in 2030, which I know we all know will be here before we know it. And so these are all people that are going to be consumers, using goods coming through our seaports. These people will be using our roads, traveling through our airports. So certainly there's work to be done to address what really are challenges as well as opportunities that 2030 presents. Fortunately, Florida's leaders are working today to ensure that our long-term infrastructure is ready for what 2030 brings. One of those leaders is Kevin Thibault. So please join me in welcoming Florida DOT Secretary Kevin Thibault, a great partner to Seaports and doing a great job for Florida's infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. That's scary right there. Get that picture off there. I hate that. The team should know that better than that. So during my 3-hour presentation this afternoon, after lunch, how was that lunch? Wasn't it great? The dessert looked really good. The previous group there, I was with Sissy Proctor in the back there, and I loved the idea of the lawsuit on the magician, because they wouldn't tell his secret. Can you believe that? I had never heard that before. Anyway, planes, trains, and automobiles, oh my, lions, bears, tigers, and bears, right? Wanted to talk to you a little bit about setting the stage a little bit. I want to do my Mark Wilson imitation up here and kind of walk around a little bit. To talk a little bit what Doug just kind of teed up about the future of transportation and future of infrastructure here in Florida. As Doug mentioned, we all know the statistics here. We know about the growth that we have, 900 people a day calling Florida home. And on top of that, you have all this visitors, right? And as the Senate President Galvano mentioned in his opening about being the #1 tourist location in the world, that brings about challenges that we have about how do we stay in pace with that transportation need? Because everyone there is expecting the transportation to get them where they need to go. Whether it be the people who live here, the 21+ million people, soon to grow up to 26 in just a very short period of time, or about all those visitors, right? We're on track to be over close to 140 million visitors. All of them are looking for transportation needs. And so how do we get the goods to the market? And how do we get people to where they need to go is really the challenges we have. We tend to be, in many cases, a reactive, right? When we look at trying to provide those transportation solutions and those mobility solutions, it's usually a reactive state where, are they trying to catch me on the thing? Okay. Where we're trying to be reactive to what those needs are. And so in this case, what we're trying to do is trying to set up an organization within the department so we can be a little bit more proactive. Get out in front of what those needs are and look at those mobility solutions. And it clearly is looking at evolving our transportation needs for this state to be able to look at all the modes of transportation. That's why planes, trains, and automobiles and ports. Because it's going to take all the different modes to really efficiently be successful in moving people and goods in this state. That's the mission of the Department of Transportation. At the end of the day, it's efficiently and effectively moving people and goods. And so we've got to start to change the mindset from a state road department that we were up until 1969 until really a Department of Transportation. And so with that, we try to look at different solutions that we can develop to be able to do that. You saw earlier the blueprint for Florida 2030, and it's, again, a call for action. It's an opportunity for us to get out there and be proactive. And we're excited that one of the pillars that were there by the foundation is to focus on infrastructure and growth leadership. Because we realize that our ability to grow in this economy is to be able to have the right infrastructure. Not many people want to move into an area that has a lot of gridlock, or at least doesn't have the vision to be able to move it forward. And so what we're trying to do is make sure we lay that groundwork. And we continue to look at how do we get out in front of the vision of the group within the different local governments. Our ability to be successful requires not only partnerships at the federal level, it requires a lot of relationship building at the local level. It requires relationship building with the industry, whether it be those of you here that are part of the chamber or those that are part of the industry that helps us deliver those transportation solutions. And so we're working together in that collaboration to be able to be in that proactive state in our transportation solutions. I got my little cue cards here because I don't want to forget something, because inevitably when I walk off the stage, I'll forget something that I want to impart here with all of you. So as I look down at me, like Mark did, I saw him look. He cheats a little bit. He's good, though. He's really good. I was watching him back there. Is trying to make sure I get all the right points here. One of the things that we're looking at is focusing on really 3 levels. And the first is improving safety. You probably saw recently that there was a media piece that came out at the national level that talked about pedestrian fatalities and pedestrian industries. I was recently at a meeting with the Federal Highway Administrator, and she mentioned that this was about a week or 2 before the actual numbers came out, that she saw the numbers, and at a national level, we haven't gotten the Florida statistics yet, but at a national level, we actually have exceeded an all-time high on pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries. And so it is a reflection of a lot of different things. Obviously, growth is one of those things. So when you have more growth, more people, you have more interaction. But obviously, the other things that we know about too, distracted driving is obviously in the uptick. And so those were all kind of the nexus of where you have issues with safety. So when coming back to the department earlier this year, one of the things I challenged our team is how can we improve our safety numbers? And it's really changing the discussion in how to do that. Because it seems like the things that we've always been doing is not moving the needle. And so it really takes a collective effort with not only the department, but with our partners, whether they're at the local level or our partners in law enforcement, to try to develop solutions that can really move the needle in improving safety. And so for those things that we're really focusing on, as many of you may know, is the 4 E's in safety: engineering, education, enforcement, and emergency services. All 4 of them are going to work together to be able to move that needle in safety. And so the department plays a big part in the engineering part, but not all of it's the engineering. The distracted driving, I can only get their attention so much in the engineering by putting rumble strips, or maybe I put those little spikes that's at the airport there to get their attention a little bit. It's really about education, and it's about working with our partners in enforcement. And the department plays a big part in the education piece, working with our partners. So that's our first thing, is trying to improve safety. A second is really providing mobility options. And I mentioned this at the beginning. It's really thinking about how can I move more people and goods within a particular area. I-95 in Miami is as wide as it's going to be. Can't get any wider. We're from wall to wall. But if those of you who know that area know that there is still a latent demand for goods and people to move in that particular corridor. So we challenge our team to say, what are those things that we can start to think differently about in mobility to move people in a given corridor? The third thing is trying to leverage technology and innovation. One of the things that's really intriguing for us and important with us is the evolution of technology. I see many of you using technology as I'm speaking. Actually, latest count is 80% of you are using technology as I'm speaking. I said that the other day at a group, and I was looking at an individual who was using his technology, and he says to me, "I'm taking notes." That's quick. Even though he was checking the World Series score or whatever it was, ESPN or whatever he was on. He was taking notes of the game, probably. So it's really about the evolution of technology and how can we leverage that to help improve safety and to help provide enhanced mobility. So you've heard a lot of discussions about connected and autonomous vehicles, and really about a collaborative, connected transportation environment, right? We don't control the vehicles part, but we control the infrastructure. We have a little bit of say of what's going on with the infrastructure. So working with the vehicle manufacturers, we're looking at how can we develop this connected solution to help improve safety and enhance mobility. Ford will tell you today that they're no longer a car manufacturer. Good old Henry probably spinning in his grave. But they're a mobility solution provider because they realize it's evolving. So those of you who have, like I do, generational, I have generations within my family. My youngest is 19, just got his license, 19 years old. My oldest is 34. Age 15, he was there getting the permit. At 16, he was getting the license. And those, you've seen it, right? It's an evolving situation in how we use transportation. Because they're getting more used, the different generations are getting used to the different options in transportation. So what we're trying to do is leverage that and leverage the technology that's coming to be in the right position to be able to use it for what we need to do for the state of Florida. Many of you are familiar with the test facility not far from here called SunTrax in Auburndale. And Florida is one of the only states in the southeast that actually has developed a test track for this autonomous and connected opportunities or these technologies. And it's, we've opened the oval part. We're getting ready to develop the infield so we can start to test some of this equipment. And we have a long list of providers and technology providers who can't wait for us to finish so they can start testing the different equipment and materials. The thing we're going to find, though, is today they're going to test it, and then 2 months from now it's changed already, right? How many times have you, we put cameras out, those little cameras, and the technology is almost obsolete because we got a new camera, right? Because it's new technology. So what we're trying to do is try to stay at least in pace with the technology to help leverage that. But we know intuitively it's going to change the way we actually engineer and design our facilities and how we develop transportation solutions. So for example, on a good day, with normal traffic, an interstate, I didn't say any particular interstate, let me use I-10. Interstate 10 moves about 2,200 vehicles per hour per lane. Okay? That's kind of a rule of thumb. So that's when you've got good traffic flow in the lane. But now when you've got this connected type situation where they're connected to the vehicles and they're connected to the roadside, think about a platooning of vehicles. I'm going to get more than 2,200 vehicles per hour per lane. I'm going to get probably 4,000 vehicles per hour per lane. So what have I done? Well, first off, obviously, I've improved the mobility in that given corridor. I'm able to develop more solutions. I expect the generational thing I mentioned, that is not going to be a single occupant vehicle anymore, that it's going to be a pooled vehicle where there's going to be more than one person in that car. So now I'm moving more people in a given corridor. And clearly, I've developed a safer solution, right? Because I've taken the human element out. Because now they're keeping their headways between each other and on side to side and so on. We had a rented vehicle here, and it has those sensors in the front and in the back. So when we pulled up to the parking spot, it's sensing the two vehicles, and it's beeping. Like, what's wrong, right? Well, it's because it's got that technology already built in. It's in that earliest stage of that connected vehicle spectrum. So we're trying to leverage all that and get out in front of that. So Florida, fortunately, is one of a few of only a handful of states that's leading in that effort to be able to provide those innovation solutions, but it doesn't stop there. When we start looking at the technology leverage, and I keep looking at my 2 hours and 30 minutes left on my time, we'll get there, is to look at how can we use technology to streamline project delivery. Because more often than not, we'll come up with transportation solutions that will all say, yes, go, so be it. Replace this bridge, widen this road, and so on. And then I'll say to you, I'll see you in 8 years. Because it takes me that long to go from concept to concrete. And so I've challenged the team to say, what can we do where we can do things concurrently? And what things can we do to do things differently in using technology to get there? One of the things that's going to help us along is an initiative that some of you I know are familiar with the multi-use corridors of regional economic significance. Yes, also known as MCORS. We love our acronyms. Where that on its own is going to cause us to look at things kind of concurrently instead of sequential. Because we've always done things kind of sequentially because that's really what the federal process is. And one of the things I've challenged the team is, if only 24% of my budget is using federal funds, why does 100% of the projects have to follow the federal process? And I understand why we did that, because we never knew at the time if I was going to have any federal funds on it. But now that we pretty much know it's not going to be, let's change things a little bit. So things we're trying to do is streamline how we get projects delivered. And those help the business entities, like all of you, because then you can start to see some improvement in the different corridors, whether it be a highway mode or a transit mode or whatever. There was recently a World Congress of Intelligent Transportation Systems in Singapore. And many of you have heard about how they have kind of evolved in their transportation solutions. Well, they went a little, some of it was a little bit kind of on the edge there a little bit, but they clearly look at all the modes in moving people and goods. And a lot of the lessons we learned from other countries as well is some of the things that we're bringing back here to the state to benefit all of us. One of the things that I've got to pass this on because my staff wrote this down here is talking about how we can leverage reimagining what transportation does for our visitors and our residents here. You know, you're in the midst of an environment that's heavily tourism, right? So we talk about 126 million last year, and Mayor Dyer here in Orlando will say 70-some million of that was here in Orlando. I would say the majority was here in Orlando. I could pretty much get a good glimpse of that, right? You could probably get there. And so some of those groups like to leverage technology and what they deliver to their customers. How about if we develop a relationship between public and private to develop transportation solutions that together are linking that technology? How can we go there? How can we do that? So one of the things that I'll be looking at is, again, looking at those relationships at even a different level than we've normally done in the past, and how we can move people and goods within a given area, leveraging the technologies that we're all working with together. So one of the things that I've challenged my team as I wrap up here in the last 3 minutes is talking about how do I embrace the team within to change the culture. And so what we've done is, and I've told the team that I know my time with the department is finite, it's not forever. And so instead of being revolutionary, we want to be evolutionary. Evolve what we've done and built on what we've done in the future. And so we developed a culture that talks about efficient movement, connectivity of the modes. That's extremely important. Doug was talking about the ports, and the ports are doing a great job in looking at the goods that are being moved into the state because of the needs, or moving out if we're exporting. But clearly, the port can bring it to a certain point, and then it's going to go out. And one of the things that we're evolving with is that connectivity and how we as the department could be a partner in that connectivity. There was a statistic that was given to me the other day that was mind-boggling, but it didn't surprise me. And some of you who have taken the I-75 corridor from Wildwood to the Georgia line will probably agree to this. 28% of the traffic is trucks. So usually as a designer, as an engineer, we usually see 10 to 12% trucks on a given highway. Never see a road where it's almost 3 times that amount. But it's there. You've seen it. And so a lot of our major corridors is starting to see that growth. And so what we're trying to challenge the team in this innovation opportunity culture is how do we change the mindset a little bit? There's a study we got going on to look at widening I-75 because it's already there at capacity from Wildwood to the Georgia line. And so I've told the team, think of it differently. You're getting ready to spend billions of dollars to add more pavement. And in doing so, you have to replace every bridge, every interchange, because the bridges were all designed for the 6 lanes that are there today. Change the culture a little bit. Do we develop certain lanes that are just for that long distance option? I got to believe it's a value proposition for somebody to come in from Georgia and tell them you don't have a stop all the way till you get to Wildwood. Right now, having said that, we started off with the mentality of car only. Well, how about if I switch it and do truck only? Either way, you see some benefits there, right? You take the truck out of the element, either in that lane or in the other lane. So the only thing that you have left is, do I put an intermediate stop because the kids have got to go to the bathroom? You can't go that whole distance, or at least stopping somewhere. But that's changing the mindset a little bit on how we do transportation decisions and how we do transportation design. So I leave you with this as I wrapped up here. I want to continue the dialogue with the business community and obviously with our partners to look at ways that we can improve transportation for the people of Florida. Thank you for having me, and have a great meeting.